Most people think protein has to come from animals or expensive supplements. But there's a crop that doubles its protein content every 48 hours, grows in a bucket with zero soil, needs no fertilizer, and produces more protein per square foot than any vegetable you've ever grown. It's not a gimmick. It's not theoretical. It's ancient technology that's been feeding livestock and humans for thousands of years. And right now, while grocery store meat costs $8 per pound and protein powder sells for $30 a container, you could be growing unlimited protein in your kitchen for pennies. This isn't gardening. This is food production. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to do it. The crop is sprouted grains and legumes. And before you dismiss this as rabbit food or health store nonsense, understand what's actually happening here. When you sprout a seed, you're not just growing a plant. You're activating a biological explosion of nutrition that transforms a dormant seed into a living protein factory. A dry lentil contains about 25% protein, but when you sprout that same lentil for 3 days, the protein becomes more bioavailable. The vitamin content multiplies by 500%. The enzyme content explodes, and the seed produces compounds that make all of it easier to digest. You're not just eating seeds anymore. You're eating living food at its absolute nutritional peak. And the entire process happens in a bucket on your counter in less time than it takes most vegetables to even germinate. Here's what makes this different from regular gardening. Traditional vegetables take weeks or months to produce food. Sprouting takes 2 to 5 days. Traditional gardens need soil, space, sunlight, perfect timing, and constant maintenance. Sprouting needs water, air, and a container. Traditional crops produce once per season and you're done. Sprouting can run continuously, producing fresh protein every single week, year-round, regardless of season, weather, or whether you have any outdoor space at all. This is the difference between hoping your garden works and knowing your food system works. This is the difference between seasonal food and permanent food production. The math is absurd when you actually calculate it. 1 pound of dried lentils costs about $2 at any grocery store. That single pound will produce roughly 3 to 4 pounds of fresh sprouts. Those 3 pounds contain approximately 75 to 90 grams of complete, bioavailable protein. Now compare that to ground beef at $8 per pound with 80 grams of protein, and you're getting the same amount of protein for 1/4 the cost. But unlike beef, your sprouts are growing while you sleep. No feeding animals, no slaughter, no refrigeration until harvest, no cooking required. Just seeds, water, and time. And the sprouts are ready to eat in 72 hours while that cow needed months or years of feed. And it gets better. Sprouting doesn't replace your garden. It fills every single gap your garden can't touch. When your tomatoes aren't producing yet in early summer, you're eating sprouts. When winter kills your greens and nothing grows outside, you're eating sprouts. When you run out of stored dried beans in late winter, you're eating fresh sprouted beans instead. When a late frost destroys your spring plantings, your sprouts don't even notice because they're inside on your counter. Sprouting is the food source that works when everything else fails. It's not a replacement for vegetables or meat. It's the foundation under them. It's the insurance policy that guarantees you always have fresh protein, no matter what happens outside. The system is stupidly simple. You need a container with drainage, seeds, and water. That's it. No grow lights, no air pumps, no temperature control systems, no fertilizers, no nutrients, no soil. The seed contains everything it needs to explode into a protein-dense sprout. Your only job is to keep it moist and let it breathe. The entire process is rinse, drain, repeat, twice a day, morning and night. That's the complete system. And if you can rinse dishes twice a day, you can grow more protein than your family can eat. Here's how it works, step by step. Start with the container. You can buy fancy sprouting jars with mesh lids from health food stores, but you absolutely don't need them. A wide-mouth mason jar with cheesecloth rubber banded over the top works perfectly. A plastic bucket with small holes drilled in the bottom works. A kitchen colander works. A cleaned-out yogurt container with holes poked in it works. Anything that holds seeds and lets water drain out will grow sprouts. The only key is drainage. Seeds sitting in standing water will rot and smell terrible. Seeds that drain completely and get air circulation will sprout beautifully every single time. Choose your seeds. The best sprouting seeds for protein production are lentils, mung beans, adzuki beans, chickpeas, whole peas, and alfalfa. Each one has a slightly different flavor, texture, and growing time, but they all follow the exact same process. Start with lentils if this is your first time. They're fast, completely foolproof, and taste mild enough to add to almost anything without changing the flavor. Buy dried lentils from the bulk section or order them online. Make sure they're whole lentils, not split. Split lentils won't sprout because they're damaged. Whole lentils are alive and waiting. Measure your seeds carefully. For a quart-sized mason jar, use about half a cup of dried lentils. They'll expand significantly as they absorb water and grow, so don't overfill your container or they'll get cramped and won't sprout well. Pour the seeds into your jar, cover them completely with cool water, and let them soak overnight for 8 to 12 hours. This is the activation phase. The water penetrates the hard seed coat and triggers enzymes inside that begin converting stored starches into sugars, breaking down proteins into amino acids, and waking up dormant cells that start dividing and growing. After 8 to 12 hours, the seeds will have absorbed water and swelled to nearly double their original size. Now drain them completely. Pour out every drop of water. This is where the daily system starts. From this point forward, you'll rinse and drain your seeds twice a day, every day, until harvest. Morning and evening. Doesn't have to be exact times. Just roughly 12 hours apart. Pour fresh, cool water into the jar. Swirl it around to wash the seeds, and drain it out completely through your mesh lid or cheesecloth. Shake the jar gently to remove excess water. The goal is to keep the seeds moist but never wet. Too much water and they'll rot within 24 hours. Too little water and they'll dry out and stop growing. The sweet spot is just enough moisture to keep them alive, growing and breathing. Place your jar somewhere with indirect light and good air circulation. Not in full sun, not in total darkness, just normal room light. The seeds don't actually need light to sprout. They need air circulation and moderate temperature. Anywhere between 65 and 75 degrees works perfectly. Your kitchen counter works. Your pantry shelf works. The top of your refrigerator works. Just avoid placing them near heat sources like stoves or in sealed cabinets where air can't circulate. Sprouting seeds need to breathe. Within 24 hours, you'll see the first change. A tiny white root tail emerges from each seed. This is the radicle, the very beginning of the root system. It's the first visible proof that your protein factory is running. By 48 hours, those tails will be half an inch to an inch long. The seeds will have doubled in size again. The outer skin might start splitting, and the protein content is actively climbing as the seed converts its stored energy into living tissue. Continue rinsing and draining twice a day. Don't skip rinses. Skipping even one rinse can cause problems. By day 3, the sprouts are ready to harvest. The root tails are 1 to 2 inches long. The seeds have completely split open. Some sprouts will show tiny green leaves starting to form at the top. This is the absolute peak. The sprouts are crunchy, fresh, and packed with protein, vitamins, enzymes, and living nutrition. Now you rinse them one final time, drain them thoroughly, and transfer them to a container in the refrigerator. They'll stay fresh for about 5 to 7 days. And while you're eating this first batch, you're already starting the next jar so you never run out. That's the entire system from start to finish. Soak overnight, rinse twice daily, drain completely, harvest in 3 days. 48 to 72 hours from dry seed to fresh living protein sitting in your refrigerator. And once you understand this simple process, you can scale it to any size you want. 1 jar feeds 1 person a few meals per week. 5 jars running on a staggered schedule feeds a family fresh sprouts daily. 10 buckets feed a household indefinitely. The system is completely modular. You add more containers, not complexity. The process never changes. Now let's talk about what you're actually growing and eating. Lentil sprouts are mild, slightly nutty, crunchy, and blend into almost anything without overpowering other flavors. Add them to salads, sandwiches, wraps, grain bowls, stir-fries, soups, or eat them plain by the handful. Mung bean sprouts are the classic, thick white sprouts you see in Asian restaurants. They're crunchy, slightly sweet, perfect for stir-fries, pad thai, spring rolls, and soups. They take 3 to 5 days and grow long white tails with small yellow heads. Chickpea sprouts are nutty, dense, and incredibly filling. They take a bit longer, about 4 to 5 days, but they're high in protein and have a satisfying texture. You can eat them raw or lightly steam them. Adzuki bean sprouts are slightly sweet with a delicate flavor and work well both raw and cooked. Whole pea sprouts are thick, crunchy, and taste exactly like fresh spring peas. They're one of the absolute best for adding bulk and substance to meals. Each of these seeds follows the exact same process. Soak, rinse twice daily, drain, harvest. The only differences are the time to maturity and the final flavor. Some sprout in 2 days, some take 5. But all of them turn a $2 bag of dried seeds into multiple pounds of fresh, living protein that costs pennies. And here's the part most people completely miss. Sprouting isn't just about the sprouts themselves. It's about building a continuous system. Once you have multiple jars or buckets rotating on a staggered schedule every few days, you're producing fresh food continuously without gaps. You're not waiting for a single harvest. You're harvesting constantly, every few days, forever. Monday you start jar number 1. Wednesday you harvest it and start jar number 2. Friday you harvest jar 2 and start jar 3. By the time you have 3 or 4 jars staggered 2 days apart, you're eating fresh sprouts every single day without even thinking about it. The system runs itself. It becomes automatic. Compare that to a traditional garden. Gardens are completely seasonal. Gardens depend entirely on weather conditions. Gardens require land, tools, soil amendments, compost, pest management, watering systems, and months of waiting between planting and harvest. Sprouting requires a jar and 2 minutes of rinsing twice a day. There's no comparison in terms of reliability. Gardens are incredible and irreplaceable, but sprouting is reliable, predictable, and unstoppable. Let's address the concerns people always have. First, safety. People worry about bacteria, specifically E. coli and Salmonella on sprouts. The truth is, sprouts can carry bacteria if the seeds are contaminated before you buy them, or if they're grown in dirty conditions with poor drainage. The solution is simple and straightforward. Buy clean seeds from reputable sources that sell specifically for sprouting. Rinse thoroughly twice a day. Keep your containers clean by washing them between batches. Don't let seeds sit in standing water ever. Follow basic kitchen hygiene and sprouts are as safe as any raw vegetable you'd eat. Actually safer, because you're growing them in your own controlled environment instead of trusting industrial farms. Second, taste. Some people think sprouts taste like grass clippings or nothing at all. That's because they've only had old, flavorless, half-dead grocery store sprouts that were grown days ago and shipped in plastic. Fresh sprouts grown at home and eaten within days taste completely different. They're crunchy, slightly sweet, alive, and delicious. The flavor depends entirely on which seed you're sprouting, but none of them taste bad. If you don't like lentils, try mung beans. If mung beans aren't your thing, try chickpeas. If chickpeas don't work, try peas. One of them will absolutely work for you. Third, cost. Even buying organic sprouting seeds from premium suppliers, you're spending about $2 to $4 per pound. That pound produces 3 to 4 pounds of fresh sprouts. That's fresh, living protein for $1 per pound or less. There's no other protein source anywhere that comes close to that cost. Not eggs, not chicken, not canned beans, not tofu, nothing. Sprouting is the absolute cheapest protein you can possibly grow or buy. Now let's talk about what this actually means for your food security and budget. If you start 1 jar of lentils today, by Friday you'll have fresh sprouts in your refrigerator. If you start 3 jars this week on a staggered schedule, by next week you'll be eating fresh sprouts daily. If you dedicate just 10 minutes per day to rinsing jars, you can produce more protein than most families buy at the grocery store. That's not an ambitious goal. That's a regular Tuesday. That's what happens automatically once the system is running.